Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another live training here at WPStudio. We are going to be talking about ways of extending WordPress with the menu system. Now, before we dive into it, there are tons and tons of plugins that are available, both free and premium, in the WordPress repository or through different companies that build plugins that can help you extend the menu system, enhance the menu system, add all sorts of things. What I'm going to try to do today is stay away from all other plugins. I will show you one or two, simply because it may make life just slightly easier. But almost everything you want to do to extend a WordPress menu can be done with just a little bit of code or a code snippet, or using some of the built-in features. So just so you know kind of where we're going, some fun things that we're going to do, if you take a look at this menu that's going on right here, notice that there are a number of things that do not come out of the box with WordPress, like embedding your search box into the menu system. Now, I have not styled anything. So this is just straight as is with just one or two tweaks. The other idea is the ability to have a login, log out. So for example, if I click this button, it's literally going to log me out. And then when we look at the window, when we're now logged out, we can see that, we can just log back in. All built into the menu system. It handles it for you. And I hope I have the password saved. Because if I don't have the password saved, I'm going to have to go look it up. Okay, perfect. So notice how that's something that we're going to be able to add with zero plugins. We can have a login, log out for a menu. Makes it great for membership. And it's literally only like 2 lines of code. Plus, if you take a look at this, notice how there is an icon going on here. So I want you to see that we're going to do all sorts of things without any plugins. So let's get started by, I'm going to bring over my browser window that, for some reason it is not liking to be dragged and dropped. Chrome, I think, is almost having a heart attack right now. Okay, looks like I got it. Okay, so we're over here in one of our test sites that we've been working on. And this test site, it doesn't really have anything going for it just yet. The menu system in WordPress is a powerful system that does allow you to manage locations that have already been established by your theme. And in just a moment, I'll show you how we can add new locations. And then you can manage each menu by whether it's pages, posts, other custom post types, as well as dragging and dropping each item. Okay, all this should be already understandable to most of you who have been using WordPress. But what gets people, even for people who've been working for a long time in WordPress, is this screen options area. If you have not used this in your WordPress site, you're missing out. Because there are several areas that you can take advantage of. So in the menu area, we've got, normally, none of these are selected. Beer types, I think that had to do with a custom post type or taxonomy we created in another webinar. So this is what happens when we reuse websites for training. We have strange custom post types showing up. Okay, so by default, none of these are checked. So when all of these are unchecked, you just have a very basic navigation system. Here and here. So that is something that is not going to be very, very helpful. So if you only do one thing, it is this: add your CSS classes, because all of a sudden that's going to open a box for every single one of your menu items, a CSS class. If you enable link target, now you can choose to open that in a new window, which is great if you have on one of your menu areas a link to an outside source. And we're going to create that in just a moment. The title attribute is basically going to assist in screen accessibility, things that especially if you're going to use icons, which we will in just a moment, and no label. You need an attribute. And this will make sense when we make our first social network thing. Because anybody who has a screen reader, if all we leave here are icons and we get rid of the label for our link, they're not going to know what it is for. So we need the title attribute in there. And finally, some themes, you can add a description so that, this is kind of where we're getting into mega menu type things, where you hover over the item and maybe there's a description that shows underneath the menu. Some themes will support it out of the box, but the only way they support it is if you check the box. So it's not going to be there. So what we're going to be doing today, we're going to use all three of these. Now, so I'm just going to quick save this menu just because I made quick changes. The first thing to understand when we're looking at this menu is I put an icon there. I simply went to dash icons, a part of WordPress, and I selected the first dash icon that showed up, which for me early this morning was dash icons buildings. So if I drop the CSS class into here, all of a sudden, icons get placed into the menu. I didn't have to do any CSS. I didn't have to do any customization. Now, you're going to notice that this is a different font than the default. Well, that's because dash icon is now the font for this menu item. Sure, we can go into the inspector and take a look at this, and simply adding dash icon is going to add a before pseudo class. Notice how it now adds a dash icon before. That is what happens when we use dash icons in the CSS class. Now, we don't have to use this. We could use other CSS classes that in our style sheet we change the color, the font, the size, all these other things. We can do all of that in here. So this is a very powerful region. But in order for me to demonstrate something, we're going to make, up here, this is actually a hook area that I've taught you how to create with the Voce theme in a prior webinar. But instead of building an actual hook-based area where a large structure of content is being placed into here, we're going to use the built-in menu area here to create kind of our social linked icon. So this is step by step. And what we're going to do right now, you can do with any theme right now. So it doesn't have to be the Voce theme. So let's start by creating a new menu. So we do this by coming here, create a new menu, and we're going to call this new menu Social Links. Okay, so let's go ahead and create this menu. Now we're going to assign it to the header menu, which if you haven't used the Voce theme is basically right here. It's on the right side of the header area. So we're going to assign that. Then we are going to come over here and we are going to use custom links. Custom links in the menu system is not attached to any type of custom post type, taxonomy, anything. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to make just some very basic things, and I'm not going to link to anything specific. So we'll make a twitter.com, and I'm going to put the link there. We need to make a few of them. You're going to see them show up here. Let's create a facebook.com, Facebook. We're going to adjust the items when we get over here. And then let's come over here. We'll do LinkedIn. Oops, maybe I should actually LinkedIn.com, LinkedIn. And then There's a reason. I'm going to go check something. Dash icon, the WordPress thing that's already included in WordPress. I'm going to scroll down here because they do have a social section. And there's a social section of already made icons. So there's Twitter, there's Facebook. Let's do a Google Plus there. I don't even think, well, maybe we shouldn't do LinkedIn. Oh, I'll use this as LinkedIn, even though that's not it. And then we'll do, let's do Google. Okay, so we have 4 items here. Now, if I simply save this menu, and I'm going to show you step by step, we're going to go back over here and we're going to see that we have, oh, I know what's going on. Hold on. I have extra spaces going on in the menu. So let's go ahead in, and I need to pull up my style sheet, because if you look at the style sheet, I actually made custom-made widths of the list items. So let's go ahead and let's change this to 50 pixels. I want to actually give some space. And again, I'm going to change the style sheet version number so it automatically updates. Okay, so notice how I've got some other issues because our logout, login, and the search are also being auto-inserted. I'm going to get rid of those because that was just for the example. We're going to come back. We're going to use these later. So I'm just commenting out the 2 codes that I'll talk about later. Okay, so now here we are. So we have, see how we have Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google. Let's actually make this a little bit longer. I'm trying to space it out so there's no confusion of what is overlapping. I'm just changing the version number. All right. Okay, so we're now good. So here's our Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google. Now, at this point, this is where all the stuff we did in the screen options to turn on the options, we're going to start to adjust the menu. And we're going to open up the menu, if it will open up. And first, we want to make sure every single one of these opens in a new link, because when we're going to send somebody from our own website to our social network link, we don't want them to lose our site, because then basically they get dumped down the rabbit trail of the social networks. So we're going to use that open link in a new tab. Notice how it's not new window. This is now the preferred way of opening links. And most browsers respect that. Even if you do blank, it's going to open a tab. So WordPress basically now just uses this as the language. It's not a custom attribute in the anchor tag. It's simply using the target blank that we've always used, except the way browsers now work is they are always going to open up a new window in a tab. That's why you see this and not open in new window. All right, let's save this so we don't lose any of that. Now, at this point, we're going to start using the dash icons in each one of the CSS classes. So we need to find them. So let's start with Twitter. We come over here and we see dash icons Twitter. Now, there's 2 things we have to do when we're working with just dumping the CSS class for dash icons. We have to actually first use the CSS class dash icons alone. And that loads all the information about the font and everything that needs to be done. And then we add, after that, a second, the actual copy paste that we did here, dash icons Twitter. So that's what we're going to do for each one. We're going to go to Facebook. Let's go grab the social network for Facebook. And you can choose which one you want to use. We're going to add dash icon, whoops, that's the title attribute. In the CSS class, dash icons Facebook. Let's get LinkedIn. I said I was going to use this one instead, since we don't really have a LinkedIn one default. Go to the CSS class, dash icons, paste, and then finally we'll use the Google Plus. let's open this. Dash icons, Google+. Did I have a typo? There are a number of spaces that are coming. Oh, cache icons, huh? Dash icons don't grow on trees. Okay, so now we're going to save this menu. And when we go look at this, we should actually see the icons showing up. But notice how the icons are automatically placed before the text. So at this point, we can now come over here and let's get rid of the navigation label, and we're going to put the navigation label in the title attribute. You're going to see it. The reason why we're moving the attribute, the name of each link, because I'm going to open up the source code here in just a moment, and each one just simply gets moved down, and we save. Because we have the icons in there, hopefully I didn't break it. I did break it. Oh, let me see if... Okay, that is weird. Did you guys see what just happened? I think I found a bug in WordPress. All our menu items just went away. Okay, the menu did literally just disappear. That is a bug because you used to not have to be able to put a link text in there. All right, now I'm going to have to do it over. Let's just do one of them. Oh, wow. Somebody, I'm going to put a space. Let's see if we can still pull this one off. Dash icons, Twitter. Twitter, space. Okay, there we go. We needed to put the space there. For some reason, it's now, there is a conditional tag wrapping. So I'm gonna fix that. I'll submit a request. Okay, so see, there we go. It is actually the social links menu. So what happens if you actually remove the link? So let's go ahead and I'm going to just add in Facebook. We'll just do 2. We'll do the process again. Facebook.com, Facebook. Add the menu. Custom link. Navigation here. Make sure you have a space. Dash icons, Facebook. Okay. Whoa. It overwrote the thing. You cannot... Okay, here's another issue. Are you serious? You cannot have the exact same navigation label. Space. Okay, so that's a space. We are really, because when we push the limits of what WordPress is supposed to do, we find all the little bugs. So I did a space for Twitter. We'll do a single space. Did a space for Facebook. We'll do. All right, let's see if this works. Save menu. Okay, we got it. Okay. So now we've got our Facebook and the spacing. Remember, we have 100. We already preset in the style sheet that all our list items in the menu are a width of 100. That's where it's coming. Now, what we can do is if we do menu li dash icon, actually, let's just do this dash icon width 70. I'm going to make it 50 pixels, height 50 pixels. Let's see if that will make it larger. Nope. Yeah, Carrie, that is a weird... Let me make this 75 just to make sure, not 750. Oh, you know why? I can't believe I was just doing something really stupid. Dash icons is a font. Font size 2EM. And I've got to find where my dash, let's just do this. There. So now we're starting, again, I just simply grabbed dash icons and said, anytime you use dash icons, we're going to use this size. Again, we would wrap it maybe inside a menu, but I've got several menus here, so we would have to customize it. So we've now been able to put links in this. So it's just one thing to do. Now, there's also nothing stopping you from keeping Facebook in here and using Twitter, using the names of these items, which then basically just, again, we would have to work on the spacing, but we can then adjust this. People know what it is. It's linked off, and it links directly off into Twitter. So there's, lots of stuff that we could do with that. So that's just a quick little idea of pushing WordPress beyond just some default concepts. And that's using CSS classes. The description, let me do the title attribute. Let me go back there. The attribute, now we're not using the description because the the Voce theme doesn't use it. If your theme uses it, you're going to have something. But see, the title attribute helps screen readers here, especially if you're going to link off to something without the name or something. You need to have a title attribute that shows off what is being linked. So rather than actually creating images or something like that, we can use dash icons. We can play around. Again, there's a lot of customization that you'd have to deal with when doing it this way. In the handout, I did point out that if you want a very simple method of doing this, there is a plugin called Menu Icons. Many of you may already know of this plugin. But Menu Icons, there's a few of these out here, also makes it fairly easy. And I'm going to just quick show you this one. So, if rather than messing around with this, you just want something that will give you more than the dash icons out of the box, we can search for Menu Icons, and it should be right here. So there's a number of them that will have it, but this was pretty easy. And we're going to activate this one. And so once we have our menu icons activated, I just want to make sure that here we are, menus. See, menu icon settings. So the settings are which fonts do you want to use. If you want to use dash icons, you want to use font awesome, we can put a few of them there. We can save this. Now it does have a few extensions. It does have a few extensions that you can connect up to ICO Moon, Icon Moon, or whatever you want. Now you can also choose: do we want to hide the label? Are we going to put it before or after? What's the vertical line? So you can actually do some type of settings here. All right. So once you've saved the settings, you're going to also see that we have the ability to select the icons. So, boom, it opens this up. Looks like WordPress. We can simply search for, what is this, Facebook, and see which one we want. All right, we want this one. So We can say, do we want to hide the label? Yes. See, we're previewing it. The hide the label, actually, this is the preview of what it will look like. We can zoom this up, and you're going to see the preview. Let's do 2. See how we can do 4. So we get bigger and bigger. Let's just do 2. That worked well. And then we can select. So now we have this icon here. I'm going to remove this just so you see the difference. And let's save this menu. Come back over here. And we're going to have Facebook. Again, does something similar. Now, if we go ahead, come back over here to hit this button and remove the label, this will handle it for you. Save this. Refresh. Basically, we do the same thing we were doing, but now it's all centered for you. It does all the code. You didn't have to go into your style sheet and do anything. And we can do the same thing for the Twitter. So basically what's happening is with this menu icon, it allows you to set everything here. And then the icon takes over, the menu icon takes over and becomes the visual, not any of this. Yes, the hover is the title. Save that menu, and so now our social menu is here. So it's very easy to use, and it does give you a few more options. So this is the story of kind of using social icons or adding icons. You don't have to use it for just social type things. This is a great tool if you need more type of icons that will be next to the home, the support link, the other thing. It's going to be one of those step above that you can provide to a client. And if you don't want to just use the CSS and style everything yourself, using the menu icon plugin, great solution. Very easy to use and very simple. John, can a menu item have 2 lines or levels of text? Yes, that's where the description comes in. We're not going to be really dealing with that because it is a very specific type of thing that the theme you have to rewrite the entire theme. The way the theme adds menus. Because it is literally another line of code that has to be inside what's called the menu walker. Some themes do it, some themes don't. But in order to get the multiple levels of text without using something like a mega menu or a custom menu plugin, it's the theme that supports it. If that is something that is of interest, I would Google search this: WordPress menu description code. If you put those words together, you should be able to find something that should point you in the right direction. Okay, so let's now talk about the next thing. I'm gonna change this menu because we're gonna work in this main menu here just now. So we're gonna uncheck this. So we're gonna get rid of the header menu. We're gonna go back to our menu over here, and let's get rid of this dash icon. And this way, we're all back to a traditional menu here. Okay, so we're here in a traditional menu. The next thing I want to show you is how to add a login, logout link. Now, every menu item here on any menu is part of a hook or that exists, a location that exists in WordPress called the WP nav menu items. So in order for me to do this, I'm going to go back and forth here. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to make some space here so we can see it all. Okay, so it all has to do with something called the WP nav menu items. All items in all menus exist inside this hook. So therefore, if we treat it like a filter where we say, okay, take everything that's in here and then we're going to filter it through items. So we're going to add a filter for this, and then we name the function that we're going to filter. So we're going to do add login out. Now, we actually want to make sure that this function, this hook that contains all the menu items, is finished processing before we start adding our own stuff. So we want to make sure that it has a priority and a position that occurs afterwards. That's what's happening with these additional parameters. Most of the time, if you just left this alone, it would try and add the login before it's ready to receive additional items to filter, because we want to be able to filter the already finished menu system. So let's do our function, add login out. Now inside this little area, we do have to, because again, we're filtering something, so therefore we do have to add some arguments that are being passed in. One of them is the items. So those are all the items. This is what WordPress deems each menu is in the variable items. And then we have our arguments. The arguments are there so that if we need to customize how it exists, you're going to see why. There's a bunch of, these are just things that we're passing in. These are arguments that are specific to WordPress menus. So the first thing we want to do is anytime I'm going to filter something, and before I start doing something, I'm going to return the items that I'm trying to filter. And so I'm returning the items back to the nav menu. This just makes sure I don't forget to, if I don't do this, basically I'm pulling everything out and then stopping. I'm not giving it a change. I'm not passing it back to WordPress. So in this function, we're going to basically add an item, because every single one of the WordPress menus have an items. Pretend it's kind of like this is an array. And when the menu, it's called the menu walker. And it doesn't matter whether you're working with Drupal, Joomla, any type of WordPress, any type of content management system that dynamically builds their menus, they have something called a walker. What the walker does is it basically creates a loop, and every single time it goes through the loop, it places an item equals something, and whatever is in here is going to be each menu. And so the walker builds the menus dynamically. So what we're going to do is use the period equals, which means we're adding it to the ongoing list of items that are created. So every single one of these items, somewhere in the walker code, the menu walker code, has this. So all we're doing is we're just adding one to it. And because everything is going to be like a list item, great. And so now I'm going to, we're going to have a variable that's going to contain the login, logout code. So login out. So this is simply saying when you're going through and building every menu item, we're going to add this. So this is simply a variable, so we need to define it. Login out equals, and this is the cool thing, WordPress has a function that will automatically know whether you are logged in or logged out. It's called WP login out. And if you just leave this, it's simply going to send people back and forth to the login page. But what we can also do is we can always say when we're logging them in or out, if you put index, it's going to send them to the index page, the home page. So when we log in, it goes to the index page. When we log out, they log out and go to the index page. And then this is false for returning to the location where you were. You can also choose a different location to send them. This is just This is the parameter and whether or not we do any redirects. All right. So I'm going to save this, and this is going to add this login logout option, this item, to every single nav menu item. So we hit this, and all of a sudden we now have our log out because we are logged in. And that's all you have to do to handle that. It's not in here. We're not putting anything there. So it's kind of a cool little method of, especially if you do a membership site. Now, I'm going to show you how to add a search. Well, guess what? What if we just change this whole thing to, instead of add login, logout, let's say add cool stuff. Okay, so we're adding cool stuff. So we need to make sure we update our function. We're going to pass in the items and arguments. It still works perfectly fine. But now we can start adding items. Items. Multiple items. Well, what do we want to do? Let's get search form, which is the WordPress search form. And again, you can go look up, just do a Google search for get search form WordPress, and you'll find all the parameters that may go there. Now, notice how I've now put two items in the same function. I'm returning all the items into the WP Nav items. So now I come back here, and I've got not only the logout, I've got the keyword. Or what if I simply want to add something else? Items. We can basically start hard coding everything. Client no touchy. Oops. Did I not close the list item? Okay, that's weird. Oh, here's why. Let me add this up here. The reason why is we only have 100 width, and the search form is longer than that. So in order to see that it's different, client no touchy. If you want to make sure that there's always going to be specific links that are styled the same way, managed the same way for our each item, and maybe you do allow the client to adjust some items, this is a way that you can set exactly the things that need to happen at the end of a client's social or a client's menu system. So it's a kind of a cool little way of filtering, setting the items. It can be straight HTML, it can be pulling log in and out stuff, it can be grabbing the search form, it could be basically any type of thing. You know how Gravity Forms has the ability to call a function, or Caldera Forms has the ability to call a form through a modal window from a function. Well, you could add that directly to a menu. So, hey, sign up, boom, click the button, and what happens? A modal window pops up. This is how you can turn your menu system into something that is going to pass functions. Because, watch this. Items, I know we're going to really break something here. Break it all. Okay, so I now put a function here. So, function break it all. I don't know what, return muffins are awesome. Muffins are awesome. So anything you want to put into here, so you can build full functions into your menu items. Chris, no, sorry, I don't have time to build out a whole login, logout pop-up window. But hopefully this gives you the direction to chase. Using it like this so we can start adding in items to our menu. And they can do everything from internal functions, HTML, external functions, and even WordPress form concepts. So a lot of what the webinars I'm trying to do is give you the idea that while there's so much more just beyond the horizon to customize. So yes, everything we're doing right now is basically a few exporting out or returning HTML, but hopefully this gives you the idea. Now, the other thing is a lot of people sometimes have custom menus about certain things that they want to pass on to information. So I have run into both clients as well as other developers who use the menu system because they've taught their clients how to connect up certain things. And so let's call this one our directory. And in the directory, maybe we will do a sample page, a new page. Let's go to Fast News 3, whatever. I don't. You make 3 things. Okay, so I'm going to call this one our direct. Again, this is our directory name. Okay, so we've got this all set to go. We're going to create a new function, and this is going to create a shortcode called menu that will allow us to simply name the menu and use a shortcode. So let's go above this filter, and we're going to add a shortcode. So this shortcode, we're going to call it menu display. That's the name of my function. So my function is menu display, and like any shortcode, you're going to pass really 2 different arguments or parameters into this function. You're always going to pass in the attributes because shortcodes can have attributes that specify what is happening with that. And then we're also going to, anytime you have content inside a shortcode or that it's going to display content, you need to pass in that content is going to be started. Basically, if we don't add anything, we're not going to do anything because it's null to begin with. So when we work with shortcodes, we extract the shortcode attributes. Now, give me 1 second. And our shortcode attribute basically is name, and by default it's null. And then we have our attributes. Make sure I got this right. Yes. Okay. Got to make sure I get this, and then return. Hold on, I have one too many. Let's see. This one goes. So I have 1, 2, 3 opening, 1, 2, 3 closing. Okay, so I don't need this one. I'm not sure where this one came from. Maybe I backed up. Anytime you see and you see an extra parenthesis, check and make sure it didn't get auto-inserted by something trying to auto-complete. So the best way to do it is just backtrack, count how many times you open something, and then count how many times something closes. And then if you have an extra one, you know exactly where to get rid of. So before we return, let me show you what the shortcode is going to look like. It's going to look like menu name equals display. Okay, so if this is the attribute, we need to extract that based on the name. So we're extracting something based on the name. That's our attributes. So that we can return the WP nav menu, which is the function that allows us to place a menu anywhere. This is how we display the menu. And our array is going to be menu equals, menu equals, let's get that right, name. Well, when we extracted out the name, we set it as a variable. That's what this extract shortcode attribute means. This becomes now a variable with this being the value. So this is the variable, this is the value is stored now in the variable. And then we're going to do echo equals false because we're basically returning, we're not echoing. Okay, so that's what's happening. So we should be able to put this shortcode now anywhere. And this shortcode code, which is in the handout, is going to handle that. So let's go over here, and we're going to edit our regular post here. Whoa. And then line 20. Oh, we don't want that. I had a semicolon ending this, but I needed to end it here, not here. So that should fix that. Okay, so let's edit this page, edit this post. So here's our breaking news. Oh my, breaking news. And I'm going to put a shortcode menu name equals display. Let's go ahead and update this. And if it's working, look, there's our menu. And plus it includes the logout, client no touchy, muffins are awesome, and then our menu, our search. So I'm going to just turn this filter off temporarily because what we would end up doing is adding all of this stuff conditionally based on the menu item. So we would have an if this is the menu, we would do that. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, so now what we've been able to do is put a menu system that would show up wherever you want. And it operates like a menu. It's managed like a menu. If you have a number of links. So there's some neat things you can do outside the box of changing the way your menus are displayed or how you choose and where you choose. You can do it by a shortcode. You can add items to menus. You can customize with icons. And there's really a lot that if you go outside and start digging into it, especially if you are looking at, if you use like the Voce theme, one of the things I do is I give you the code here that you can easily create new locations and then add them to certain hooks. But we're not going to have time to go into this whole item. But let me just talk you through this. I'm going to carry this. I'm going to talk you through it and show you the code. Okay, let's go ahead and adjust this. Okay, so there's several things going on. I'm going to pull these action hooks above this so that we can talk about them. So the first thing, anytime you want to create a new menu location, you're going to have to do two things. One, you're going to have to register it with WordPress, and two, you're going to have to register it with the theme. Now, if all you're doing is using an already created hook for your theme, whether that's Genesis or Divi or anything, or Voce or 2017, anything that has a hook that you can connect into, you can do that. Now, if you don't have a hook, you can add your own hook into WordPress by simply going into the theme and somewhere in the theme you do like a do action, the name of the hook. You just put that in the location in the theme template file. Then you can use that hook. But that's beyond. So this first one, the init, is the WordPress hook where we are initializing items. And so that would be like initializing a new menu item. So we're going to call it through our function called Voce Custom Toolbar. So this is our Voce custom toolbar menu, and the location is top bar menu, and that includes the description. So all we have to do is register the menu. This is a function in WordPress the same way we would register sidebars or things like that, and we're passing in the locations. The location is basically just the naming convention. That's the only thing it does. We're registering a naming convention so that when somebody comes to the menu area and they go to the manage location, they're going to see a location that is called menu area placed above the header area. See that? Menu area placed above the header area. Maybe it'd be better if we did top bar menu. How about I spell correctly? That would help. All right, save this, and now you're going to see top bar menu. Oh, I did it opposite from everybody else. But this now gives us a new location. But simply adding something to this location, adding the directory menu, doesn't do anything, because all we've done in this first part of the code is register it with WordPress. So the second part is we need to connect the menu with a hook that exists inside WordPress. Or you can use that do action to set a location. So Voce has something before the HTML right at the very top, has an add custom top menu. So here's add custom top menu. Look, we're using the same thing, WP nav menu. That is the code we used when we used the short code. Notice how menu equals name, echo equals false. So what we got here is, I'm going to show each one, top bar menu, container ID, here. So instead, in this one, we simply use the arguments, the menu, to create which menu we're adding. In this one, we're simply saying the theme location. We're finding the theme location, top bar menu. This and this have to match. And then we're adding a CSS ID top bar menu that will wrap around that. So what this has now done is we have our directory thing is going to show up now at the very top, but it's actually being hidden. Well, actually it's here. There's another thing that's happening above here, but here's our directory. Why? That's the directory one we used with the short code. Here's the directory now added in a short code. Now added in through the traditional menu system. So you can add infinite number of menus. So we could just simply do, let's go a muffin menu, and we'll call this one our muffins. We'll just make it simple. We'll ignore the translation stuff right now because I want to do it fast. Another menu, even more. Okay, so if I did this, I've now registered a whole bunch of menus. See? We've got a bunch of more menus, which means now in our code, we can simply start connecting. We would create, again, we can't do it to this one because this function is already connected to this hook. But we can go through a whole bunch of hooks and simply say, theme location, Muffin Man. Do you want a CSS wrapper around it? And again, you can also Google WP nav menu to see all the different parameters and arguments you can add. So hopefully this gives you some ideas of taking greater advantage of WordPress menus. Everything from icons to styling to customization to adding, and there's really a lot you can do with WordPress menus. You just have to dig a tiny bit deeper. Any questions? We've got about just a few minutes to go before we sign off. I hope this has given a few of you some ideas to chase for this weekend. things that you can use and implement immediately. All right, everybody, take care. I will see you all in the Slack channels, and have a great rest of your Thursday.